your host, and we're bringing in somebody who's going to help us get to a place of better wealth over the course of our conversation today. Here we go. All right, for our presentation to you over the Cash Compound podcast today, ladies and gentlemen, we want to present a great friend in the space that we take place. So we've got an opportunity right now to have a conversation with our friend Dom. Dom is with our friends over at Better Wealth. And what they're doing over there is they're helping people maximize the true potential and the number one asset they have in their life, which is themselves. So Dom, thank you for being on the podcast with us today. Thank you for sharing your time and your competence and your knowledge with our guests.
Appreciate that, man. I'm excited. Anytime we get to chop it up as colleagues, as friends, and talk about the industry, I'm for it.
Yes, sir. So here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, this cat comes up to me. He introduces himself to me about 6 months ago when we first met. Now, we're at one of our favorite companies, a company that we utilize a lot for the process of what we all know around here is utilizing whole life insurance of all crazy things as a banking tool, as a cash flow system. And I was like, dude, I follow this cat. So if you're not out there following him yet and you don't know who Dom is, I'll give you that call information here in a little bit. But Dom, what I was surprised to hear from you is that your background, kind of like me, was just not in a bunch of things around finance or economic theory or maximization of products and tools out there. Your background was more in like sports and athletics. Tell us who you are, man.
Yeah, I grew up in a very poor background. Food stamps, welfare, trailer park, and my family had no money whatsoever. Wasn't educated on money, didn't have any knowledge around it. And so my whole objective was to get my family out of that scenario. And that was through football. Since I was young, as early as I can remember, 2 or 3 years old, wanting to play in the NFL. And that was my dream, that was my mission, and that was my life. And, I even had the saying, ball was life. I slept with my football. It just became an obsession and passion of mine that I essentially followed through all the way until I was probably around 25, 24. I made it all the way playing Division I football, and then got an opportunity to play with the Atlanta Falcons as well for a little bit of time. And when I was done with that, I then transitioned into rugby, got an opportunity to play, went to camp with Team USA for rugby as well. After all of that, I said, you know what? My body's kind of beaten up. I'm tired of chasing this. The passion for it is kind of fizzling out. I'm going to get into the world. And that was always in the back of my mind, entrepreneurship. And it was thankfully because of two things. One, the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's kind of where it all started. But I also, in college, got involved with a network marketing company. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of it, but I am a huge fan of what they teach, which is essentially personal development, growth, and how to sell, how to communicate, the books to read. And so I went down that long journey, which then kind of led me to wanting to always be an entrepreneur. And then I went down this rabbit hole of what do I want to do? And here I am, got involved with insurance, been in it ever since.
Okay, man. So what's similar about our backgrounds is that neither of us grew up studying finance, economic theory. That wasn't a part of what I was doing. I was involved in sports as well, but I was kind of the clown, rather than on the field. I was like on the microphone yelling at the people and the fans and all that type of stuff. So we got a little bit of a similar background there. Yeah, a little bit of that. But actually, it's interesting as well that you mentioned that network marketing was one of the steps along the staircase of helping you find what you're doing today, because my brother and I heard about this concept in a network marketing environment as well. It had nothing to do with what we were doing and the kind of the group we were involved with, but they said, hey, when you're making money, there's a better way for you to protect it, to grow it, to utilize it than you're probably currently doing. And so that kind of blew my mind. So here's my next question for you is, when you heard about what you guys now regularly teach at Better Wealth, what was your first kind of introduction? And like, what did you think about it? There's a lot of people who are listening out there on the internet who are hearing about stuff from a lot of different angles. They're hearing one or two common phrases and themes, but they're hearing it from a lot of angles. But tons of us didn't come from a background of understanding what was being said. So how did you feel when you first were introduced to what you do now?
So when I actually started in the insurance space, essentially selling life insurance, I started selling index universal life insurance. And the IUL was the one thing that I knew at the very beginning as being the grandfather, essentially the best product in the world. And I was like, okay, why would anybody want to do anything else with their money except put their money into an IUL? Because I would look at the numbers and I would say, this thing is amazing. Like, why would anybody put their money into a Roth? Why would anybody put their money into any other vehicle when you have this downside protection with upside potential and this thing on paper looks so sexy? And so I kind of just went there for a little bit. And then I would look at whole life insurance. And with the company that I was representing at the time, they were a stock company. So it wasn't really fair at the time. It's essentially comparing apples to oranges, too. Having no dividends essentially going back to the policyholders because being a stock company, it doesn't make sense to do whole life with that. I looked at it and I said, this is the most ugliest thing in the entire world. Why would anybody put their money into whole life insurance either? So I had this two completely different sides of the coins of whole life is terrible, IUL is the greatest thing. And then fast forward a little bit, I met Caleb, and Caleb and I connected, and I met another guy who also worked for New York Life, who was also in the industry for a little while, and both of them at the time were telling me the opposite. They were saying, "Hey, IUL is terrible, whole life is where it's at." And then I got into this big conundrum of like, well, what's going on? Like, I don't really understand. Like, so what is right? Like, I don't want to obviously, I don't want to sell something that I am putting in where I'm putting people in the wrong thing, where I'm going to wake up one day and everything's going to crumble. I want to be able to go to sleep at night knowing that I'm doing the right thing for the client. So I went on this year hiatus, and that hiatus was essentially trying to find the truth. So I did all of the research with Garrett Gunderson, Kim Butler, uh, going through every product, course, information out there to figure out like what really was going on underneath the hood, and have a really strong belief around what I really believe. Fast forwarding, now I have this really strong belief that most financial products, they all have a place as long as they are fully understood and they're in the right context and you're not over fabricating it. And I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest problem in our industry today is that we have a product or a tool and we oversell it to what it really isn't to make it seem like it's a magic bullet versus just sharing, hey, this is how it works, this is how it functions, and this is how it can help you. And I think that's where the disconnect I think with our industry is a lot of time, especially with the younger crowd in today's world. I with the internet going on and with as much information that they're getting from other places on the internet, there's just a lot of misinformation out there, and I feel like it's our job and duty as advisors and professionals to share like what's the truth and what's really going on.
So here's the question. Everybody out there is still, you may have had a coming to Jesus moment, Dom, but we got a lot of sinners out there who have not been saved yet. My question is, why is everyone still talking about IUL being the best thing? Now, I've heard that same thing, but I actually came to the table hearing about whole life insurance first, and that being the great asset that you could utilize. And so when I heard about IUL, I was like, wait, hold on, is this a better product? Because if I can have upside potential that goes with the market on a good day, but doesn't fail me on a bad day, maybe I got taught the wrong information. So I had that coming to Jesus moment probably about 2 years ago, and I'm already in the space of whole life insurance and all that. So here's the question: what did you learn on your journey when you're trying to figure it out? What about IUL apparently wasn't the right thing anymore?
So here's what I'll say, and my opinion is actually, I would say, not aligned with all infinite bankers and people that are in the space that we essentially serve because majority of people are super far left where they believe whole life is everything and IUL is the worst thing, or they believe that IUL is the best thing and whole life is the worst thing. I lean a little bit more into whole life. That, like, for me personally, as like my personal belief and what I believe in as myself as Dom Rufran of what I want for myself and my business economy, personal household economy. I have truly come to the conclusion that I want to be as agnostic as possible in regards to all products because insurance companies have created products to help solve a problem for somebody specifically, right? And you have to ask the question, what problem are you trying to solve? And then plug that product into it accordingly. And so the problem with IULs is that they have been oversold and overfabricated. You go back and look at the last, 10, 15, 20 years, they have highly, highly, highly underperformed from the numbers that were presented. So they were presenting at, these 10, 12, 16% rates of returns that were happening at some point in times. You now look back at what has actually happened, not even close to what the numbers are, right? So I think insurance needs to be an expectation management is really what insurance is. And IUL has lacked in expectation management because they've promised this book of goods that is going to do this amazing thing and has not performed in the way that it was thought out to be. And so there's the reason why the insurance industry has came out with these new laws under like AG 49, all these other things to mitigate these insurance agents from being slimy, schemy, and sharing information that is not going to be best for the client. And so there's a very, very smart guy out there. His name is Bobby Samuelson, probably one of the smartest people in the entire industry. And he talks about an IUL on it makes a lot of sense for the client if they understand it. If they understand that there's upside potential with a downside risk and that it should operate in that format and only that format, and that you are going to know that the product in itself is not going to be this magic bullet that's going to replace everything in the entire financial system, and that it's going to produce these results of 8, 9, 10%. Like if you understand that like a 4% rate of return on an IUL is likely what could happen, and you're okay with that, and you understand that you have the upside risk, the downside protection, and it's funded properly, then cool. And that's for the client and they like that, great. Right. And so it really comes down to educating the clients on what it is the product is, how it works, and how it functions. But the last problem with the IUL is that most agents in the space don't actually understand how the product works. Right? It's an option strategy. The strategy is very complex. Every year, there's management that has to be done with the product. And these people, especially who are younger, are selling this pipe dream of amazing returns, and then they're not going to serve the client afterwards to help them continue to manage that IUL, which is then going to lead to more problems as well. So I think at the end of the day, um, I'm not I'm not here to demonize an IUL, but I am demonizing the industry and I am demonizing a lot of the agents and I'm demonizing the way that it's sold. Because at the end of the day, like the product's a product, and if you understand how the product works and how it functions, and you're okay with that, then you can't demonize it if the client's okay with that.
Right. One of the things that I do consistently is I ask clients who do have IULs. It's obviously a hot product that's getting bought all over the place these days. And folks hear me talking about one of my favorite tools out there. It's a tool, and that's whole life insurance. And then I say, or they give me, well, an IUL will perform better. I'm always getting these things that are acting like guaranteed type statements. An IUL is
Mm-hmm.
going to perform better. And I said, are you sure? How? Is that what the IUL says, or is that what the guy who told you, who sold you that IUL, is that what he said? Because I'm not sure that the paperwork says that. And of course, if you're looking at the performance based on illustrated values in the tabular details section, well, hey, pretty sure in the first year that you had it, it didn't even work like that in the first year. So you've got to adjust your expectations, kind of like you said, based on that thing. So I have a tendency to read people their own contracts and their own illustrations. And I say, hey, if I read you this line, what do you think that actually means? And do you think that's going to be the salvation of what you want in the long run, maybe for your retirement? Of course, you hear about IULs being that better than 401k product and that retirement product quite a bit. So that's how I have a tendency to do that on that specific occasion where I get told that I am very wrong and that whole life isn't going to work out. So here's my question for you now. How do you feel about whole life insurance? I know that you guys at Better Wealth have a foundation that you guys are putting people through. There's a lot of teaching and preaching and education around what you guys have. But I know what that foundational asset, Caleb, your partner's book, The And Asset, talks about a asset that works like this and this and this and this might be what you're looking for. Now, how does whole life insurance match up to that perfect asset, and how can people use it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this all comes down to, again, trying to figure out what it is that the person wants and what they're trying to accomplish. Because I actually don't believe that whole life is made for every person and every person should get it. I do believe that whole life fits a specific category of people, like people that are living like paycheck to paycheck, have high interest credit card debt, that are undisciplined, that don't really have like the mindset to fit this product. I don't think it's really good for them at this point in time. I don't believe that it can't be futuristically. Now, if someone comes to you and says, hey, like, I just want a permanent death benefit that'll last you the rest of your life, last you the rest of my life, well, then that makes a lot of sense as well. Then we can kind of look at it from a different perspective. The clients that we're serving are coming to us right now saying, hey, I want to maximize my cash and I want a place to store that capital to where it can be a foundational asset. And there it can be a multi-dimensional tool. And that tool could do multiple things. It has tax advantages. You could borrow against it to use for other assets, to increase your activity, to increase your cash flow, to allow yourself to live more of an intentional life. Right. And then at the same time, you have this death benefit. And this death benefit's powerful because it allows you to go to sleep at night knowing that your family's taken care of and protected. You know that you'll be able to have that indefinitely. And at the same time, you'll be able to pass down a legacy to the next generation if you choose to. You can do that through trusts. You can do that through any format. It could be through a charity. It could be to anything that you find value of importance. So again, I try not to even put whole life insurance as like it's this amazing product that's going to solve all the problems. But I do believe, like you said, it's that foundational product that allows people to start with a very, very strong foundation where it does allow their dollars to do multiple things and then allows them that product to go enhance every other area of their life. And so I'm just a true believer in it for a lot of people, not for everybody. But I do believe that if you have it, your financial situation will be better than if you didn't have it.
I love to hear it placed that way. I think folks like you and I who believe in what whole life insurance can be as a foundational asset to help people manage their life better, sometimes we get a bad rap because we're out there pushing things on the internet in 1 minute sound bites, right? And it makes it sound like this is the only tool or this is the best tool in all situations. And of course, at some regard, I mean, we have to take some of those darts and those arrows in the back. Why? Because it's sound bites. And so I mean, well, of course, I mean, I'm talking about certain things. It only gives me like 30 seconds to talk about it. So I can't teach you everything in 30 seconds. So sure, totally fine. But we're obviously helping people in this space as well. But I think so many people are undereducated on how they can live an intentional life. I love the way you guys say it. I know that we say things a little bit differently than you, but the way you guys say it and the way I follow what you guys are doing is really nice because you're saying, look, what money is going to help you do is live better. If you have it in a place that's safe, if you have it in a place that's growing, if you have it in a place that's available, if you, all those things, it's just going to help you live a better life. So talk a little bit more about the better life here. It's not about the nuances necessarily between this company or that company, or do you like Dom better, you like JDew better, but tell us about how you're freeing people up to live better lives. I want to know some specifics. Help me understand, not being a client of yours, what is a client what are they processing and doing and how are they getting better because you guys help them. That's what it's really all about, I think.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think this becomes very complicated sometimes because financial products at the end of the day, they aren't going to solve that better life, right? They're not going to be the thing that's going to fix all of the issues. A lot of it comes down to the heart and the head of how people think and operate. And the unfortunate part is that it takes a lot of time and energy to really help people think differently, to act differently, to place their funds differently, and to utilize that to live an intentional life. And so it all comes down to mindset, and which why I really love and enjoy doing content because content is a thing that we can produce that even when we're sleeping, people can essentially learn from to where they can change that mindset, right? And the books that we've created and our voice that's out there on the internet can help people change that mindset. And then hopefully by the time they come to us, they're in a decent place to where we can have high intellectual conversations with people to help them make better decisions based off of what the options this tool has given them, right? The end asset, which is just overfunded whole life insurance, gives people more options, the options today and for the future. And so for us as Better Wealth as a whole, we have a couple different platforms that we're really trying to help and serve people. And when we're focusing just on life insurance, we're really hoping that clients already have that mindset coming into it. And then we can help them utilize the tool in the best way possible. Better Wealth's mission as a whole outside of the end asset is to help people live more intentionally, which is more of a coaching platform, which really spends more intentional time looking at the overall financial piece of money, how it flows, what are they doing on their day to day, where are they trying to go? Are they trying to become an entrepreneur? Are they W-2? Are they trying to, get out of the rat race? Like, there's just so much to it that I think that conversation becomes super complex, and it is a time thing that people have to start at a age where they make a decision that my life is going to be different and I'm going to be super intentional about learning. They go on this path of learning, and then over time it changes and evolves, just like how you and I have in regards to like whole life and IUL and the things that we have learned. Everybody's financial journey is going to be the same way. Unfortunately, like in just one meeting with a client, like we can't really change all of that, but we can help them if they have a lot of the right mindset coming into it.
So here's my next question. Someone comes to you guys and they want to talk to Dom because they know he knows and he's got the expert technical knowledge, but they don't want all of the holistic approach. They don't need it. They're doing great, man. They just want the answers, X's and O's, right? A little Madden for you, or back in my day, blitz, right? A little
Yep.
NFL blitz, and they just want the X's and O's and go, hey, is whole life going to be a tool that I can use with growing cash values and liquid money that I can get to, income tax free? They just want to know that. Like, how do you deal with that type of person? And what would you say to that person? And then a little bit follow up after that. The second part of the question is that a good client for you? Or is that potentially not a good client for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so for me, if the good client and not good client, it then comes down to where they're at in their personal life. And so I'll ask those other questions about like how much are you wanting to contribute to a policy? What does cash flow look like? Where are you at in regards to what you plan on using the policy for? Are you living paycheck to paycheck? What is your annual income? Like getting more information about that person. And if they can answer all those questions clearly, and they are going to share with me that they're going to use the product in a powerful, efficient, effective way, then I will go ahead and move forward with them. Right? I think the conversation in regards to finances in general is a wants versus needs. Right? We always talk about the needs question, like what do they need? What do they need? In reality, people really only need food, water, shelter, love, like those like basic foundations. After that, it comes down to like what does the person actually really want? The person says, "Hey, I want whole life insurance," and I believe that they are a good candidate based off of the factors that I just shared. Well, then I will essentially give them whole life insurance the way that they want it structured, move on forward the day, and help them utilize the policy if they ask, how can I utilize this policy? I'm not going to turn people away if they are educated, if they know what they want, and they have the right mindset. I won't turn people away based off of that, um, because I do believe that that type of person would be a good client for the thing that they want, which is whole life insurance at the end of the day.
So you're telling me that you're not out there selling whole life insurance to people who don't need it and just racking up on these crazy commissions. Sounds like you said, I might keep this person around. I might educate them and help them. I might turn somebody away. Or hold on, because according to the DMs that I see and the comments underneath some of your posts, you're out here scamming people, bro. You're just out here saying, oh, well, whole life is going to do this for you and all this stuff and whatever. Hold on. So you're telling me you're a good person deep down? Is that what you're saying?
Nah, deep down, I think we're all pretty bad people. So to answer that question, that's a hard no. But I have the right intentions for sure of wanting to help people in this space. And when people, I actually just created a video around this. I think it's going to get uploaded this week about how people think that whole life insurance is a scam, and that there's people out there raving about how it is a scam. And I think that comes back to a lack of immaturity, an immaturity of understanding how the financial product works, because majority of the time people that are saying it's a scam just don't fully understand it. And I believe that. And I think it's a lack of immaturity in general. Like what 45-year-old person, 55-year-old person, 60-year-old person like Dave Ramsey, is a grown man yelling that financial products are a scam. Like that, to me, that's just a very immature thing to do, because financial products are not a scam. It's the agent and the person that's selling the product that essentially scam me. Because if they're putting people into a situation that it's not right for the client, then I do believe that's scammy, which is why I do understand where a lot of people are coming from when they say whole life is a scam, because there has been a lot of scammy agents. People say, hey, like I want to maximize my cash value, and I want to utilize this policy to go invest in the real estate or my business, and you write somebody a policy where they have no cash value in their first 2 years, well, that's scammy in my opinion, because you racked up your commission, you've lowered their cash value, and they don't have the tool to go ahead and utilize what they asked you to do. And I think that's where the industry gets a bad rep. And so I really, really, really am on a mission to try to just share the truths of how the product works, who it's right for, and then allow everybody else to make their decision on if it's right for them or not. Because there's not scammy products, there's scammy people and agents that are making the industry scammy as a whole. And I believe the same thing with mutual funds. Like, I think there could be a right time and place for the right person for a mutual fund, like Dave Ramsey says, and for a 401k. Like, I believe my headspace is there's a smaller few people that it makes sense for. But I also believe that if you're overhyping, like Dave Ramsey saying, you're going to get 12% year after year in mutual funds, and you don't talk about some of the fees, taxes, losses, things like that, that's a scammy. Like, that is very scammy in that scenario. It doesn't make the product scammy. It just means that he's not sharing the full story, which makes essentially Dave Ramsey scammy. So that's kind of how I view the industry as a whole. Is when people say, "Oh, this is a scam," I get it, because there has been a lot of scammy people out there, but people are uneducated, which is why they're saying it.
Gotcha, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing your heart about what you got going on out there. And I do want people to find you and follow you as well. So tell us where we can find your stuff and what you're working on next. Because last time I checked over there at Better Wealth, I didn't see your name on the book cover, man. So when is your book coming out? I want my signed copy. The people got to get to you. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I am essentially the CEO of the And Asset. I run the And Asset company. And so I am more than happy at promoting the And Asset book, because I believe it's a well written book. And I believe that it makes a ton of sense for people to get educated in a simple way. Caleb wrote a great book that's meant for fifth graders at the end of the day. You can read it in a day. So grab a copy of the And Asset. It really helps educate people around the concept. But just came out with a YouTube channel. It's called the And Asset. It only talks about life insurance. We have another channel that's called Better Wealth, where it talks about money, concepts, business, so on and so forth. But if you only want to learn about life insurance and the intrinsics of it, the weeds of it, how it functions, thoughts, how we view life insurance, just follow the And Asset on YouTube. I think that's going to be your best resource at the end of the day, because I do believe in education, and we're going to start putting a lot of really more powerful content around so advanced strategies as well too, coming up soon for high level business owners, and how they can work in their companies and corporations too. So I'm excited for it. Content's one of my favorite things to do. So if you just want to follow the journey, want to learn about life insurance, just go to the And Asset on YouTube, and that's all I'd say.
Dom Rufran, we appreciate you being on our channel and giving this wisdom and sharing your heart with everybody. What's important for a lot of people to understand is that there is a proper time and place to be able to utilize certain tools in certain ways. And there's a tool that we love out there, a foundational asset tool that we both utilize and try to educate people on, because the education is so underused and underdeveloped in people's minds about how they can use it. They can use it for whatever they want to do, right? And that's what's beautiful about what you guys call the And Asset, and what I know as overfunded whole life insurance from a mutual company that pays dividends. See, I need to stick with you guys because the And Asset sounds so much sexier than all the words that I just used, right? But you guys took it. I went to go look up that domain and you already had it, so I couldn't get it, man. So appreciate you and what you're doing, man. Thank you for coming on and spending some time with us. Hopefully that we can continue to figure out how to partner, go alongside each other, and help each other be successful, as long as we're bringing people with us. I think that's what we're both trying to do in our respective companies, my friend. So we give you all the blessings in 2023, and we hope everybody continues to follow you and help you be able to spread this word to so many new people out there in the world using your content, which is the same stuff I love to follow and find as well, man. So thank you for being on our channel today. Appreciate you.